Hello and welcome to Soul Family Chat, where we vision and explore new possibilities for a new Earth. I'm your host, Guy Harvey, and it's my great pleasure today to welcome Sarah. And hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Sarah is a guardian of the organic timelines of angelic humanity, and she's also the founder of poetryhotel.com, and she is many more things and many amazing things. And you can go to poetryhotel.com and read more about her there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel below, and that'll help you get notifications of new shows that are coming up. So I'm just going to start with some questions with Sarah, and then later we're going to take some questions from the people that are on the live here. And I'm just welcoming somebody into the chat now. Okay, great. Sarah, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great, great. Well, I love this, guardian of the organic timelines of the angelic humanity. I mean, everybody talks about timelines, has heard about timelines. Can you talk to us about timelines? What is a timeline from your perspective?
Oh my gosh. What is a timeline? Well, I think we have to start with the context of understanding that all of reality is light and sound. And within that holographic reality, I guess, of light and sound, there have been artificial timelines. So I can't really talk about anything that I do or who I am without talking about the artificial timelines. It's like, well, what are the organic timelines? Well, it doesn't make sense to talk about the organic timelines without talking about the artificial timelines, which gets into all of the intergalactic global mind control, and all that stuff is like always really heavy. So I'm like, even right now, like listening, what is the timeline that wants to, the organic timeline that wants to unfold in this moment? All of reality unfolds from what I call the 0 point, which is the point of absolute now. And on the path of returning to love, which some people have referred to as ascension, I'm calling it the return to love, because ascension can kind of make it sound like we're going like up out of here somewhere, but we're really going deeper into love and returning to love here now. And yes, our consciousness is ascending up out of the fallen timelines, the artificial timelines. So there is that ascension part, but we're descending at the same time deeper into the lived experience here now, and collapsing out all of the artificial timelines, which is artificial, just the programming and all of those all of the constructs that basically have no basis in reality, which is love. So that's just a way for me to conceptualize, I guess, that which you can't really conceptualize it. I sometimes question the word timelines even, because it's not so much a line, it really is just this dance, this constant dance unfolding. But here in this lived experience, we do each have, like, we're having experiences. So I think a timeline is really just like your experience unfolding according to your organic blueprint. So it's really more of a dance, more of a song. But there is an order to it. There is a divine order to it. There is a divine to our organic life experiences. So an organic timeline is the life experiences that we are like actually meant to have. Not all this artificial, all this programming, all this torture, this like psycho spiritual torture, organic to the human experience. And so
is there Other infinite,
as a guardian of the organic timelines, that's really me holding that which our true planetary hologram can come back into form. And we all have that power. We all have that. We are the divine. I always say we are the divine technology through which the God dream unfolds. That's my way of understanding, like, the human as the divine instrument through which the pure light and sound that is reality is manifest through just our being here. I could say more, but does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's great. Are there infinite timelines, for example? Is every individual, in a sense, on their own timeline? And but at the same time, are there sort of more generalized timelines, like a major timeline that a lot of people are all in on, for example, like the ascension timeline? And then I have speak to that, and then I have another question about it.
Was the first part of that, did you ask if there are
infinite timelines? Like, is like every person in their own timeline?
The way I see it, and again, I just want to preface everything I say, it's just from my own gnosis, my own lived experience. So I always, I'm just sharing from what I've observed so far. I'm not saying anything is absolute truth. This is just from my experience, my journey, my perspective. The way I see it is that, love is eternal. Love is eternal life. Love always will be, always has been, and is eternally. That's why you can't like conceptualize it, because to conceptualize it is to bind it, to put something around it, and you just can't. That's why we just have to drop into the now moment. That's what I call returning to love. And so in that sense, yeah, there's just an eternal orchestra, just an eternal holographic orchestra happening at all times. And here in this form that we call human life, we get to experience the fullness of that. And then we each have our own personal, I guess you could say, timeline, or our own, the way our, unique version of that eternal song plays out. And there are infinite ways, endless ways to experience this one song that is love, because that is the intelligence and the creativity of what I call God's source. So I see everything like through the micro. Like there's just this one song of love, really, forever and ever and ever, and you can't put your mind around it. That's why we have to come back to here. It's the only way to truly experience it. Have a very personal micro reality, where if we're really paying attention to our own personal experiences, our lived experiences, we can trace out the architecture of the macro. So I guess, yeah, I really do question the word timelines, I guess, because it's more fluid for me than that. But yeah, I don't know. I think we each have a choice in how to respond to the love that we return to. And this gets very trippy. It's like, is it all predestined, or do we really have a choice? Are we really creating our reality in lifetime, or are we just pulling, infinite potentials into form? And I would always come back to, like, any of those are really possible. And I don't want to get too lost in my mind, because I want to stay present for my lived experience here now. I see it.
Yeah, that's the age-old question: free will and destiny. The way I see it is that we are there's some destiny, but there's also, we are, once, like you say, once we're connecting with 0 point energy, we're recreating from the absolute level, and that we can create anything from that. It's interesting that my early teacher, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, when he was asked a lot about that question and related to astrology and to Vedic astrology, Jyotish, and they say that everything's in your birth chart. Everything that's going to is unfold is in your birth chart. But then he said, it's like you are the universe. You wrote the blueprint of the universe, so you can rewrite it. So that when we're connecting at that deepest level of source, then we can rewrite our destinies.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, let me feel into this. Honestly, from my experience, I feel that my destiny is written, but that doesn't mean I know how things are going to unfold. So I still let's see, it's still a choice for me to choose to return to love in every moment. And I think that is when our highest potential organic timelines really unfold, is when we just drop into the 0 point and because it's sound tones, it's all sound and light. It's not even from the mind, really. It's just returning to that pure sound, and then allowing ourselves to revel in the joy of not knowing what's going to happen, to trust, okay, I am living in my truth because I'm choosing love here now, and love is really the only absolute truth, just pure beingness, pure love. And then letting ourselves be surprised at what unfolds moment to moment. So it's we get to, it's not even so much create our reality, but witness the creation of reality. We're both the witness and the participant at that point. And to me, that is the beauty of living, through the heart, through the, not just heart of follow your heart, but really going in there and moving through all of the pain and blockages that have kept us from, receiving that pure 0 point source energy. And that's the paradox of I'm both witnessing my reality. It's kind of I'm outside of time. It's you're just witnessing the organic timelines dance themselves into form through you. So you're outside of time, but also fully in it. And it's that, what? How does that even work? And that's the beauty and the joy of living as we are, as angelic humans. That's angelic humans are just, that's who we really are, before all of the programming and the fall from grace. So I think it's witnessing. We want to talk about organic timelines. It's witnessing the orchestra of the mind of God's source, and then also getting to participate in it, because we don't really know what's going to happen. I don't know what question you're going to ask me next, and I don't know how I'm going to answer. And it's wow, we're both the witness and the participant. And then I think in that sense, we're not, when we live that way, we're not attached to things having to go a certain way in order to experience the fullness of life here now. And that's how we can continue to grow. And that is love also. Love is all about growth and innovation and creativity and expansion. And so that's why I really don't resonate with so much of the talk around enlightenment, and everyone wants to be enlightened up here. But to me, true enlightenment is just the return angelic human beings, just being here, being in love and living from there. And that is what is going to change everything. I mean, and that is what is sweeping the planet, and it's what is going to, it's just happening. It's just happening because we're holding that frequency, that pure organic love.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. I mean, it sounds it's surrender and letting go, and obviously being in the present moment, being in the now. And I'm finding that I'm living more like that. Even with this show, like I have a list of guests and things and people I'd like to have on the show. But I think I was explaining this to you the other day. More now, I just kind of feel like who speaks to me next. It's like, oh, Sarah, it just keeps, just pops up. You got to ask Sarah to be on the show, even though I had a whole list. It's really being quiet, being silent, and then, like you say, observing. Because if I'm not being silent, if we're not being silent, we're not observing, being in the now, then we miss those little whispers, those nudges and the magic that's just kind of unfolding around us.
Yeah. And then we're really living in the flow of it, that to me is the organic timelines, is being in that flow that is just life itself flow. So it's really also about us just returning to the wild, but that wildness has an architecture. So we're safe to trust the flow and to not need to know every detail and plan every detail and not be so rigid, to trust our deeper intuitive knowing, which is like, I think of it as like the organic internet, like we're actually so connected and we actually do have the ability to just all of this information. It's all information. It's light and sound, and it's all encoded. And you do have to get to that place of stillness, receive the pure sound tones of your own spirit, and that's where it gets very personal. Like, yeah, we are maybe all having, and you can talk about too, like I see it as like, it's really so beautiful. I just see it as like holographic, like light and sound tones, and you can get personal to universal. But like, even like America, like the nation that is America, like some of us are collectively like participating in like that timeline of America, which does affect like as well. But like, that's where it gets really interesting, is like, well, some of us are tuned like specifically to like the collective consciousness body that is America, which of course you can be tuned into multiple consciousness bodies. Like, it's really so beautiful. And there are so many layers to it. Like, it's your own personal hologram. But like, yeah, America has a hologram. The Midwest has a hologram. Like, I know I tweeted, I could already feel what Guy and I are like anchoring just by us being. We don't have to do anything. I could just feel it's the Midwest anchoring, like sovereign, like community. It's just happening because we are here and it's happening through us. And that's really how effortless it is, and why we can really trust the organic flow of life moving through us. We just have to get to that place where we allow it. And it really is just, yeah, a place of quiet and stillness. And it's also trusting that, God's source like knows better than any single one of us, like what is supposed to happen in the Midwest with sovereignty and community. Like, we hold the frequency, we hold the vision, and we hold even the intent to act, to carry out however we're inspired to act, to be part of the materialization of that. But like, we don't truly fully know. And I think this is where it gets exciting for me, because this is where it organically breaks way into talking about decentralized systems of life, whether that is, decentralized internet, decentralized finance, decentralized communities, just getting back to like true power, which is like the only true power is love. There's only love, and the corruption of our innocence, which gets us to fall from love. And I'm happy to say that those times are over, and we are going to continue to see all the corruption be exposed, and love, the true way of love, and decentralization, which is really harmony. Like, decentralized power is not to say that there's not certain leaders in place, and it's not to say that there's no one who has responsibility for things, but it's about returning to like the love that's flowing through us all, and letting the harmony that naturally exists within all of organic creation to guide us. And like even you reaching out to me and saying, yeah, I'm just hearing that, you know, you to invite Sarah. And for me, everything going on in my life, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally just such perfect timing. We're just allowing it to happen, and letting all the noise of the artificial world just continue to collapse out. I don't remember what the question was, but it doesn't even matter. We're just flowing.
Sure. I'm going to ask you one more question, and everybody that's in on the live, if you'd like to start to think about any questions you have and start to type them into the chat, and I'm going to ask Sarah another question, and then you can begin to type your questions into the chat, and then I'll have a look at those. Questions. In your bio, you talked about decoding the inverted systems of intergalactic warfare, and I think we all know there's an energetic war sort of going on right now, and there seems to be these sort of two realities forming, the nature's world order, as Jack and Hobbes calls it, for the Oracle Girl, the nature's world order, and then this thing that some people call the transhuman agenda. And it's interesting, like we started out talking about organic timelines versus artificial timelines. And many of us are feeling this split within our families, within our friends, and our communities. And what do you think about all of this? And is that split going to continue to get wider, or is there a time when it's all going to kind of open up?
Well, I have seen, again, this is just my own gnosis. Take it if it resonates, or take what resonates. I have seen and felt that through mid 22, so for another year. If you're it depends on too, because we always do have a choice in where we're focused perspective. So if we're going to look, I think if we're orienting our consciousness and looking at what's happening, whether that's in America or globally, I see a great divide, like, and just weirdness. Like I tune into it and I'm like, oh, it's just almost too weird to look at, which is also going to propel those of us who are already choosing love and who already have the awareness that, like, okay, something really major is shifting, not just, you know, in a like, not just in like America, but like on a planetary. I think it's propel those of us to be like, oh my God, it's so weird. I can't even look at it. I do to keep building out organic lines in my own way. Where am I being called? You know, what's my organic blueprint? So yeah, it's hard to say exactly like the details of that. That's just what I see when I tune in, because I do have the ability to like kind of take this macro bird's eye vision of the timelines, especially as related to America, because I am so focused here. But America is like what happens in America is like really big for what happens in the rest of the world. I do see just things getting weirder and weirder. I mean, but like we have so much power at the same time. It's getting weirder and weirder because love is getting stronger and stronger. It's very it's a fine balancing act, because I think some very, very ugly things are going to continue to surface, and we are going to collectively have to come face to face with the depths of what I call the beast machine, the intergalactic warfare, and all of the levels at which it has infiltrated and fractured our collective consciousness body. And some of that stuff is, I know there's stuff I haven't even seen yet. I can tell there is stuff ugly, shadowy, really difficult to bear, to witness stuff that is going to come up that we are going to have to witness and transmute, which only the absolute 0 point can transmute it fully, because of how deep the infiltration goes. So it's like things are gonna get, I think, weird, and there's gonna be some really shadowy stuff. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know the details. That's just what I feel energetically. But at the same time, it's because the love is getting stronger and stronger. And it's like the demons don't have anywhere else to hide. All the fractured consciousness now has to come to the surface for full transmutation. So it's at the same time it's going to be a challenging but beautiful time is how I see it. You know, I try to stay as neutral as possible because there will be moments of intense grief and mourning, and we're going strong, very, very strong. But I don't want to do a doomsday type scenario either, because that's what they would like. They would like us to be in just fear and, oh my God, that is like, no, this is the time of love. This is the time where every last fractal of fallen consciousness will surface, and we will heal it. We will heal it fully. And so I see, the next year being just very weird, but I've sensed this for a year or two, that come mid 2022, we will feel collectively a breakthrough. That's how I feel. But our power is here now. Like even our sense of how time unfolds will change, because that's, you know, even our time system has been infiltrated. Like when I say everything has been infiltrated, it's like everything has been infiltrated. So that's why I just continue to just live at the 0 point and allow that transmutation to take place, and, you know, focus on my own power moment to moment, which really is just, choosing love. So it's going to be, I'm prepared to, I know we're going to have to do some really deep healing. I know it's going to be really ugly, but I also know that this love, there's nothing it can't heal. It is truly, truly miraculous, and not in a false light sort of way. It does require being with the fullness of, you know, the tragedy of the fall, I would say. Mm-hmm. So it's very real. It's based in our real, like, lived experience, but like the love is like so miraculous. And I have witnessed true miracles, not false light, like just, you know, love and light it away. I mean, true miracles that will take me the next, you know, the rest of my, I plan on telling the story over the next decade or two of my life. I mean, that's what I've been prepared for as well, because it will just take me, I don't want to just tell the story. I want to invite people into the glory of this love and the power, because it is really difficult to deal with all the ugly, like, but like I really believe that by choosing love and being there for each other, like we're gonna do amazing things. I just know it. I know it so absolutely with all my being. So yeah,
I feel that what's really important for us is to kind of stay in our lane, is to continue to do what we've been doing, which is, you know, staying in love and anchoring the energy, because there's a certain section of society that doesn't to this point hasn't believed what some of these shadow things are. I mean, they call them conspiracies and so forth. And it's going to be a bigger shock for them, and they will have to process it. And not everybody will process it in a maybe in a constructive way. And I think we'll have to kind of hold the light and anchor the light, but not to get into the fray. I mean, I'm getting to definitely the point in my life. I'm not. I mean, I observe what's going on in the, let's call it the matrix, the mainstream, but not to get too involved. It's going down and it's collapsing. And one thing that's very clear to me is that, you know, we're creating something completely new. It's not like this system can be reformed. You know, it's not like these structures and these systems that have just created this, just these dark agendas that they're going to reform themselves. You know, they can't reform themselves. They have to completely dissolve, collapse. And, you know, it's not going to be fun for everybody. I mean, I wrote something on Twitter the other day and said, like, you know, if you're you really get upset when your Amazon package is 2 days late. You're not going to like the next few years. I mean, people want their cake and eat it too. We want the new earth and all of that, but I still want to have my Amazon, and I still want to have my everything else and all my convenience, and there's going to be a letting go. I mean, if we really are going to go into that new reality, we're going to have to let go of a lot of things, and some of it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. It is very uncomfortable. I just had the thought just now, like, to have compassion for those who have not yet, grasp that there's something more going on than any one of us can really fully comprehend. That's why we do need, to have conversations and support each other. And I saw that everyone will have to go through a sort of death. It's the death on a consciousness level, because these constructs, the artificial constructs, the corrupt systems, they are held up through our consciousness. So in order for them to fully collapse, like, certain aspects of our consciousness have to collapse. And that can be it's a very disorienting time. So that's why I think people are just gonna be really literally losing their minds, because the programmed mind is just going to be purified more and more as the true crystalline, organic architecture comes back for everyone, which is it's already happening. We're kind of in the middle of it right now. And I think, it is just going to increase. But compassion. And I like what you said about staying in your own lane, because at the end of the day, like, that's really the only power I have is literally right here, right now. How am I choosing to be, really?
Sure. And it is definitely all coming out. I do watch the mainstream. I've been doing it for decades. Even when I was sort of on the yogic path, we were kind of trained to look at the mainstream media and see signs of awakening, just to see even the small signs. And I've just been noticing the last few days, weeks, you can see there's now some, whether it's you could call it selective leaking or soft disclosure. It's starting to come. I mean, one of the main news stations is actually coming out not really in favor of the medicalization. I mean, and that's remarkable to see, a major mainstream station doing that. And of course, we saw from Britney Spears yesterday. This was quite a disclosure. And these are mass collective consciousness events. I mean, that story would have been with Britney was followed all over the world. And so it's really started, and it's just going to build. So those that have doubts that, like, oh, when will this stuff ever be exposed? No, it's everything is coming out. And like you said, it could be ugly, but we have the tools to navigate ourselves through that.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So we have a question from Edie, and she says that I have a close and loving connection to Jesus. And what is your understanding of his role on earth when he was here 2,000 years ago, and his current participation in what is happening on earth, and his future role, if any? Put you on the spot there.
Oh my. Well, I have a very personal relationship with Yeshua the Christ, is how to refer to him as, just because his name and image has been so severely abused. And that is also a big part of my personal mission. If you want to talk about Sarah's very personal timeline, is to share with people my personal relationship, because I think it really shatters what a lot of people might think about this figure, Jesus Christ, in one way or another. I have a very personal relationship with Yeshua that I can only share like over time. I can't even get into it now, because that's where, find me on Instagram. That's where that story is playing out. And I do see his role as very powerful. I believe from my visions and my gnosis 2000 years ago or so, in the year that we now call zero. And there is so much to uncover about the mystery of Christ, because it has been majorly targeted by the anti-life forces, as I call them, because of the power that this one being embodied. And it's not to say that there aren't other beings who have contributed to, raising the frequency, but I think Yeshua is special because it's hard to say even why. It's like when you know him so personally, it's just like, oh, it's mind-blowing. But the vision I have is that 2000 years ago, the earth was still just very encased in this fallen dark web, and this one ray of pure God source consciousness, like, because there are so many levels to consciousness. Like, you can have a very high level of consciousness, but the dimensions are, I think, infinite. And there's a structure to this that I'm also excited to get into in the future, like the organic blueprint of humanity. Like, we're actually 12-strand DNA beings, and actually have 12, I call them octaves of consciousness. Scientists call them dimensions, but I like octaves better because it's all sound and light. So there's 12 minimum. So it's like the architecture of the God realms is so like vast and immense. And Yeshua came, if you can imagine, like the absolute source point, like beyond, like came, which is like where we all come from at some point originally, right? It's just, we have to remember. And he came and remembered in that 33-year span. And that descension and ascension, like, just blew a hole in the artificial matrix, is how I see it, in a way that I believe no other being quite did at that level. There's a unique sound tone. And even though there are many other, I know people look to many other, I guess, spiritual enlightened beings, but even then, like, we each have a unique sound tone. No two beings are the exact same expression of Mother, Father, God's source, is how I see it. So there is something very special to this one being. And it's something I'm continuing to explore and discover through my own journey, my own gnosis, and something I'm happy to share and talk about, because there has just been so much abuse of that particular being. I believe he's our brother in this. He doesn't like worship him in a idolatry way. Like, that's what the beast machine wants, right? Like, he's our brother is how I feel. I think that's all I can say on it for now.
Great, thanks. So everyone, just please feel free to put your questions in the chat, or any comments. If you'd like to share any comments or just questions, and I'll keep asking Sarah questions, and I'll keep an eye on what you're putting in the chat there. Sarah, what do you think life will be like in, let's say, 20, 25 years? You're young, you're in your early 30s. I'm just 60 now. And so I've already lived a good part of my life. And my own experiences is that coming into middle life, my 50s and so forth, is kind of like, that's when I kind of accumulated experience, and it really started to kind of blossom into something more powerful. And I can see that when you probably don't want to think about being in your 50s already, but your generation, your waking generation, when you get to that stage of your life, I feel that you are really going to be in mastery and leaders on this planet. What do you envision 20, 25 years from now for yourself and maybe for the world?
Well, I have a hard time conceptualizing time. but I have seen visions of a future that I know I'm participating in. And I do want to say, with these organic timelines, our experiencing of age will also change because experience of time change. So I think we mature through these different octaves of consciousness. But I think, you know, for anyone watching or listening, like, it doesn't matter your age anymore. Like, love is here and you can experience love. Like, that is part of the programming, right? That, like, if you get older, you have to somehow like lose your vitality or something. It's like, no. And with the planetary shifts happening, like, we will also, and are also like, it's already happening, but I think we'll experience it more and more. We'll experience aging differently, and there's potential for reverse aging actually on the organic timeline. You can maybe get younger, which is just so mind-blowing and amazing to think of. So I just want to preface to say that. But yes, nonetheless, like, that is 20 years. I mean, oh my gosh. I've experienced so much transformation in myself in just the past like 7 years that I'm like, okay, trying to like figure out what that would even be. It's gonna be glorious. This is how I feel. Like, by that time, like, because the thing is, we're making quantum leaps now. We're not bound to time the way we were before. Things are different because those binds on the collective planetary body, they're being dissolved, they're being collapsed out. Like right now, they're collapsing at hyper speed. So we don't have to look to history and think, oh, it's going to take this long for this. Like, that's why I feel like true amazing miracles are in store for us in terms of like the resurrection of true, like, of true angelic humanity. I mean, I'm seeing, just first of all, I'm seeing actual castles. Like, we're going to build beautiful, actual, like, beautiful architecture, because architecture is so important to support, like, the flow of a building is really important for how our energy flows. Like, everything should be in harmony with how God's source flows through us. So I see us, you know, I mean, 20 years from now, because I feel like the castle building, we're going to start that in like 5 years. So like, I feel like 20 years from now, like, yeah, we're going to see some new architecture, you know, maybe some, and I know there's going to be like, it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be in harmony with nature. Like, I just see these beautiful, like, glass, crystalline cities, really, but in harmony with nature. And I see these trains. Trains are a big part of my vision for some reason. I see us like redoing transportation, because cars are really just meant for fun, right? It's so like annoying to have to like have a car, like, as a, like, to have one. Like, I think everything's going to become fun and more light, to support like the creativity of true angelic humanity and the true like innovation. So I'm seeing like lots more like systems that actually work for people. So I'm seeing lots more just transportation. So like, it would be very easy, you know, if I did want to go to Southern Iowa, I could just get there. I could just hop on the train, very easy. And it doesn't have to mean that we're like destroying nature in order to have systems that very harmonious. Like, I just see like I see the train like going through the trees, right? So like, everywhere you go, it's just like a lush like oasis. And I see, I mean, by that time, there will not be government the way that we have experienced government now. Like, in 20 years from now, oh my gosh, we're gonna have councils of leaders of love. Like, it's gonna be like, some people are like, that sounds like some like, you know, fantasy futuristic movie. I'm like, no, like, that's like, movies are just our collective consciousness expressed digitally anyway. Like, there's so much truth into those visions. That's why there is so much truth in like the sci-fi movies and why you can decode stuff, because it's just human consciousness like on digital display. So anyway, I'm tuning in 20 years. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so beautiful. I mean, so much joy and so much like, we'll really discover like our true power as the divine technology of this planetary hologram. I mean, miracle healings, like, just beauty and just, oh my gosh. And it's going to be a joyous time because we'll remember what it took there. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. Thank you for inviting me to really like tune into that and feel the fullness of that. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned architecture. My teacher used to have his artists create these incredible kind of visions of buildings in the future, and some of them had actually people flying around them, you know, doing because they have the cities, the ability to fly, and they'd have these buildings, there'd be people actually flying around the, you know, the tops of the buildings, and it was just joyful.
Wow.
To see those visions, even though, you know, mainstream people would say, "Wow, it's impossible," but we have to dream the impossible. Talking about governments, Jack and Hobbs mentioned a few months ago, I think she said, no governments anywhere in the world within 7 years. And I don't take, you know, people's predictions like literally, but when I hear something like that, it says to me something big, there's big changes coming. You know, whatever that means. No governments anywhere within the world in 7 years, and you know, people are still arguing over their political parties and this and that, and it's like it's all going it's all going out the window.
Yeah, because like love is the law. Love is, we already have a government, and it is the law of love, which like which Yeshua specifically, that's why real quick, like that's why for me he is such a key, plays such a key role, is because of you really go into the mysteries of Christ specifically and his specific words. Like the code is there. Governed. We already have a government. Like it's the architecture of reality. It's just we forgot what it feels like, what it looks like, and we forgot that in this natural government, the power is within us. And so I'm seeing, yeah, instead of governments, I'm seeing just different societies. Like there will still be structure. There will still be, you know, people playing different leadership roles in order to make sure everything is flowing, but it will be so organic because the roles that we play in those structures will be organic to our microcosm architecture. So, oh my gosh, it's going to be so beautiful, and it's happening. It is happening. It's happening. We're starting now. Like even just this conversation is setting that tone and letting people know like it's happening. And over the next few years, I know my work specifically, the things that I'm called to bring into form, the Poetry Hotel, you know, the galaxy, and some other things, like which I'll get into maybe another time on another live or something. Like it's all happening, and there will be resources to help people heal. And it's really about just reclaiming our memory of this organic architecture, the organic government. And it's like, oh my gosh, the power is in me. I don't have to respond to, I don't have to be obedient to an authority that does not have my best interest in mind. I don't have to do that anymore. I can really break free, and we can just live free. And it's not a fantasy anymore. It's not an idealistic dream. It is reality unfolding here now in this very living moment. So it is good to tune into that and to know that no matter what the, you know, if we want to call it the transhumanism agenda, I do think it's important to bring awareness to the dark agenda through this time, because it is going to try to basically feed on as many human souls as it can as it collapses out. So it is important to bring awareness to the ways that that dark agenda is working, especially for the young people. Like I'm so passionate about getting our youth like, oh my God, up out of that, but knowing at the same time that it will not prevail, no matter what sort of ugly, weird thing it tries to do, it will not prevail. Love is the law, and love has won. And that's that. And I will say that over and over because it's just good to remember and to feel that power. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So I have a question from Kayla. What are your favorite methods of maintaining your energetic boundaries?
Definitely silence and getting to nature. I'm very present when I am with others, and I like to just be so fully in the love in the moment with them. So boundaries are really important for me to just keep track of. I love being in the flow with others. But because I go so deep and so like open, I also have to make sure that I'm always giving myself an opportunity to get back to myself. It's something I have to do daily. Yeah, being in nature, oh my gosh, I just love like being in the green, just going out by myself, letting myself just flow. I love being with the flowers, having music on and just not having an agenda and just letting myself get back to like, to that, to know what my sound tone is. So I can continue to dance in harmony with others. That's that balance. Yeah, I need daily quiet time, daily, like alone time, journaling, sometimes even tweeting. Like I'm still like being in public, but I'm like just really tuning into like what my sound is. But mostly, yeah, it's just being in nature. And also listening to music that I like. Sound like this is what Sarah feels like. To like fully remember, like I have a few artists or a few songs that like really get me back to my truth. So just like going for a walk and tuning into that sound and letting myself just like, yeah, be alive with that music. I'm like, okay, this is Sarah's vibe. And then I feel so refreshed, like after a walk like that or something. So it's so important. I encourage everyone to like do what they can to make time for that. Because then we can show up for each other more present as well and let that love flow. And we can have more and more more and more innovation and just like ideas. And then we have the energy to actually like sustain the things that we want to do together. So, yeah.
Thank you. And Paul shared a beautiful comment. It's quite long, so I won't read it now. But maybe afterwards we can
Okay.
chat, and I'll say that that was a beautiful comment. A question I have, Sarah, and we've talked a little bit about this before. You know, what was it like for you, kind of growing up, and we're all multidimensional beings, but you're aware of your multidimensionality and all these different energies, and I'd just like you to share maybe just a little bit about your life, because maybe it'll be helpful for other people that are energetically sensitive, that are different, and that they grow up and live in families and communities where maybe their true value of their sensitivity is not recognized.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why I'm also so passionate about sharing my experiences and being just open and having that online presence, because I didn't know I was sensitive until I was in my later 20s. Like my awakening to all of that, I feel, was very, now it seems late. But at the time, like, yeah, I was born in the late 80s. Like, I just don't think sensitivity and multidimensional consciousness, like, I mean, we're not even talking about it now collectively, but like there wasn't these internet, like there wasn't like small like Twitter communities where you could like realize like, oh my gosh, that is how I'm experiencing the world. Like I remember when I was in college, actually I was in grad school, someone did a presentation on like creativity and the biology of like the brain or something. And they were talking about synesthesia and about like how some people can mime like as different colors and stuff. And I was like, I remember even when I was like, I remember being 3 years old and knowing that Friday was red. And like, I didn't know that. So I guess I've always just had a very like vivid visions, I guess. I've always it's just, everything is so bright and colorful to me just organically. But I didn't know that other people didn't see the world that way. And I was like, wait, this is like, I'm like, wait, I'm like, how do you guys see time? I would ask people, I'm like, how do you see time? And they're like, I look at a calendar. And I was just, I was like, what? It was very mind blowing to realize at like 20 something that I like, that's when I was like, oh, like, this is very, that's what started making me like realize more that I do see like reality a little bit differently, just like naturally. And then, and I've shared this as well, and this is a big part of my personal story, is that becoming pregnant with my daughter was an awakening for me. I had a seizure when I was 7 weeks pregnant with her, and very strange for me to have a seizure. I don't have a history of seizures. I don't have epilepsy or anything like that. And the doctors couldn't even explain it. And for years, I just thought it was very strange, but I've since decoded from my own gnosis that experience was her avatar consciousness literally electrocuting my consciousness from the inside out, and kind of awakened me, but I didn't know that I was awakening. So I started seeing all of the inverted architecture, and it was very, very scary. And I didn't know that what I was seeing was the actual like artificial matrix and the way that it works like through society. So it was a very disorienting and confusing time, and there just wasn't information. Even back then, like I didn't have a smartphone until I didn't have a cell phone until I was 18. I didn't have a smartphone until I was, I want to say like 25 or 26. And then like, I didn't even know how to use Twitter until like, I don't remember the age now because time has like collapsed, but like maybe, I don't know, 28, I don't know for sure. But like, so I guess what I'm saying is that like, yeah, part of it is just like the information just wasn't there, and there was nowhere to even like take a moment to consider like, oh, how do I see reality, right? We were just like so in it. So, I mean, I was always sensitive, but like I didn't have any like I did very well in school because I loved school like like so much that if I had to miss a day, I was really sad. So I just loved learning. I loved being in the classroom. So it's not like I had issues in school or anything like that. Like I was sensitive, but it's not like I had like, I know some people like talk about having like really, disorienting like psychic visions when they're like 8 years old, and it's really scary. I don't remember anything like that. I mean, I was always just very, I guess I was like, yeah, just tapped into things, but it was really my pregnancy that like, I think like really zapped like the full like avatar awake. And that's why I'm so passionate too. And that is like a beautiful thing about this technology, is that we can share our frequency, share our lived experience with people from all over the place. And it really helped me like understand that I'm not crazy, because like my pregnancy was just the first part of it. And then like, she's 12 now. So over the past 12 years, like, it's not like it was an awakening. And then like, I went back to not seeing things. It like got more and more, like, it just kept going and it kept accelerating. And that's like, it was about 7 years after, like, so for the first 7 years, I didn't know that I was like busting up out of the that my avatar was like, yep, we're leaving the matrix. We're collapsing everything. And you have a gift for seeing all of it. And when a time comes for humanity to awaken, you're meant to like speak on it to help other. I had no idea. So it was a very like, intense initiation, but that's why I'm so passionate, because I've decoded that like, it's not even like consciousness is multidimensional, and we all have different ways of experiencing it and viewing it. And it's okay. Like, I want to tell people like, you're probably not going crazy. Like, I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see. There's a lot to say about that, but kind of went all over there, but
yeah, thanks for sharing that, Sarah. I mean, I know from my own experience that I took, Pathless, less traveled. I had a guru, and I went on that whole path and didn't pursue a career and things like that. And in some ways, I used to think I'd paid a price for that. Now I see that it wasn't really a price, but it's very different, and I didn't fit in, and I feel I've been judged by because I don't measure up to the standards of success that mainstream society has created. And like you said, you didn't have that support when you were growing up. I mean, when I first started sort of meditating and going on this inner journey, yeah, there was nothing. I mean, there wasn't a Whole Foods with organic food in every corner, and a yoga studio and YouTube videos that you could go and watch. I mean, there were great books and things like that, but it was still
Right.
It was still unusual. I remember going to my family in Newfoundland, and being a vegetarian was just like absolutely freaking radical, flip them out completely. And they'd ask you questions like, "What do you eat?" Anyway, so we've come a long way from there. But thanks. I think a lot of people will get a lot out of you sharing your personal journey. Get a lot of strength from that. Let me see. Any other questions, guys, on live? Okay, yeah. Paul asked actually. Could you mention about breath and breathing and the importance of it?
Yes, breath.
I'll take a breath.
Yeah, right? It's like, thank you for the reminder. I mean, it really starts with breath. The return to love, like, I think our breath is, I think it's more than we can fathom with our minds, like what it actually is. It's like we're like even just tuning into it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like breathing in like the ethers of like God's source. Like if you really think about like what it is, like where is it coming from? Like, and I think our breath is very, very healing. Even as I'm tuning into it now, like I'm seeing like my breath is full of just the purest and most subtle, crystalline, like most subtle energy that like so gently restores our architecture, like mind, body, and soul. Which mind is really the architecture of, like our mind is just the architecture of like the isness that we are. It's not really separate from us at all. So I think breath like unifies all of it. It's just this like immediate invitation to just return to right here, right now. And I'm actually so like grateful for the reminder. I'm like, yeah, let's just sit here and like keep breathing. And breath has been a big part of my awakening. I shared that with the seizure really being like an electric shock to my consciousness, that I started to see the architecture, which architecture, it really is electricity, the masculine principle of reality. So I had it was like an electrocution, and I started to see the electricity actually like this in the subtle realms. And of course, so much of it has been inverted. That's how they've created this artificial matrix. They've inverted how the electricity and the magnetism flows. That's how they've done it. And I remember when I realized that breathing and at the same time like dropping my mind into my heart was a way for me to start to manage, like it was like sensory overload almost when I was seeing all the inversions. And it was directly related to like, oh my gosh, how do I take care of a child? Like I felt so protective over her, but I also saw like how it was almost impossible within these systems to like, oh my gosh, it was a lot of anxiety. I'll just say that. And breathing, returning to my breath really helped me like reclaim my power. So I didn't feel overwhelmed anymore by my visions. I could choose when to receive information. And I think that's so important for anyone. I mean, for anyone really, but especially for people who are sensitive, you know, multidimensionally sensitive, or just sensitive to information and picking up on a lot, because it is everywhere, like always. You know, you have power. We don't have to be we don't have to be victims of these artificial constructs and how overwhelming it can be to start to get all this information and decode it. We can really breathe and like we just I like would always have these visions of just the mind completely like returning to the heart. Everything really unifies in the heart. And I think the breath is so powerful in like making that unification tangibly real. So spending time just breathing and being in our bodies and letting our breath, like you can feel it infuse every single one of your cells. It's like you bring the mind into your heart, and then you just let that unity, literally the unification of all aspects of self, infuse all of your cells. And it's like, I mean, that's quantum medicine right there. I mean, it's healing at the most subtle layers of our light body, really, our consciousness. I'm so grateful for that question. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for that question, Paul. And Edie just shared a nice comment, said that she really appreciated the chat today, and it's her birthday. And happy birthday, Edie! So that's great. Thanks for blessing us with
Happy birthday.
Yeah, with your birthday, with your birthday energy. So what is your greatest desire for the world at this time?
Oh my God. To remember this love, honestly. For every human, every individual, for everyone who's real, because I know there's like clones and stuff, right? So I'm always like, I'm like, how do I, every organic life, expression of life and I guess even for the consciousness that like felt like it had to create clones and artificial things, like just stop, just return to love and know that like we come from love, we are born of love, and we have the ability to emanate love. And it heals all things, it forgives all things. Like the level of healing and forgiveness that is available to each and every one of us right here, right now. If we all tap into that, we will all see the cities, the trains, the nature, we will see the healing, we will see healing in situations that seemed impossible, truly. We will see healing in families, that all the families, so many families and friends and social groups being divided right now by this warfare and just all this shadow stuff. Like if we can all just remember that love is the truth and ask, daily, just commit to being a vessel for that love, for that truth, for that peace, and just to know it, to be with it. Because once you fully taste it and return to it, like you realize this is eternal life available to us here now. And it is my deepest desire for everyone to experience it for themselves, to go inward and just be with that love and let ourselves be renewed by that, and go into the world from that place. That's how we'll bring into form all the things that we all so deeply want. Even the beast machine doesn't want to be the beast machine. It's literally begging us to put it out of its misery. It just doesn't know how to stop, because it is in so much pain. It is in so much pain and refuses to forgive itself. the fallen consciousness. That's all it is. It's just consciousness that thinks it couldn't possibly be forgiven and renewed by love. And that's the ultimate lie, because love is all that we really are. And it's constantly renewing and constantly giving us opportunities to grow, self-correct, and heal. So yeah, that's such a beautiful question. Thank you for asking.
Okay, great. Yes, that's beautiful, Sarah. If you have another question in the chat, just pop it in the chat, and we'll probably take maybe one more question from our live group. And maybe Sarah, I mean, do you have any sort of final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I mean, not really. I'm so grateful that you invited me to be here, and yeah, and no, my mind is empty right now. I don't have any thoughts. No thoughts, just love.
I think I'm feeling that as well. I think everybody is feeling that, and this has been such a privilege for me, and I'm sure everybody present on the live here feels this is a privilege, and people that will watch the recording. I think in a few years from now, people will go, "Wow, I was on a live with Sarah with just a few people." How was that? There were just a few of us here today, because you have such a beautiful message and such a beautiful being and presence, and I think many more people in the world are going to get to know you over the next few years.
Yeah, I think this was my little toe in the water of that. Yeah. So thank you. I was nervous, but now I'm not nervous anymore.
Yeah, we just dive in. We just do things, right? We don't wait until until it's perfect. And I appreciate you diving in here and doing this with me. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So great. So let me just see if any final comments or questions. Just a comment from Luada. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. It's always beautiful to connect with fellow soul family. Thank you for making this happen to all. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you to all of you. So I think we'll close now, and just like everybody's on the live, if you could just stay online for a few minutes after I close the recording, because I'm sure both Sarah and I'd like to connect with you before you leave. So thank you, Sarah, and I hope that you'll consider doing this again. I'd love to have you on another live. I mean, it's just thrilling just to play in these frequencies and just to stir them and then enliven them. And as you said, we're blowing it out in the Midwest today.
Yes, we are. Yeah, I would love to do this again as well. I look forward.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone.